A levels. Now, the chances that you're watching this, you'll probably just finish your GCSEs, and next year you're going to go into year 12, which is your first year of A levels. Now, there's a big misconception that A levels is much more harder than GCSEs, but today I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks that you can use throughout this summer and whole of next year to make sure that you adjust properly to year 12 and that you find it much easier compared to everyone else. Last year, at this exact moment, I was probably having the same thoughts as you're having in year 11 right now, and that was, how hard is year 12? Can I make it? If I found GCSEs a bit hard, how will I find A levels? And etc. etc. Now, the thing is, when I actually did year 12, it was completely different from what I thought at the beginning. That is what I'm going to be talking about today, the misconceptions regarding AS level. AS means advanced subsidiary, which is your first year of A levels. So, again, as I said, I'm not going to waste your time and I'm going to dive right into the video. So point number one, and I don't think anyone can argue this, is to understand the jump from year 11 to year 12. You should basically be aware of what you're getting yourself into, because A levels is easy when you understand, when you have a proper schedule and you know exactly what you're doing. So to understand the jump, I would watch a few YouTube videos about GCSEs to A levels and their comparisons. I would ask if I have any higher friends that are in year 12 going to year 13, I would message them and I'll ask them how everything works. And on top of that, what I would do is download the specification for whichever subject you're taking and understand, and maybe even start studying like a month after your GCSEs, because if you use that time to get ahead of everyone, you will find it much more easier when school starts in September, October, whatever it is. And trust me, once you do understand how everything works in A levels, it becomes quite easy. And I'm only speaking for year 12. I've not done year 13 yet, so I cannot speak on behalf of year 13. I'm pretty sure that year 12 is manageable if you do manage your time well. And that brings me on to my next point, which is time management. Now, time management is something that you need to have regardless of if you're in GCSEs, in A levels, or even if you're in university. Time management is something very, very, very important when it comes to studying or even just general work. So I would personally use this summer to manage my time well. I would wake up early. I would, study. I would do some productive stuff and basically get a schedule implemented in my life. Without a schedule, you don't really know what to do and when to do what. So it becomes very, very, very hard to adjust to, when school starts, it becomes hard to, adjust to your life again. So personally, how I would go about, managing my time well is I would, first of all, make a to-do list. I would make a calendar, and I would use, a time management technique such as the Pomodoro technique, which is when you study for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break, or you study for 50 minutes and take a 10-minute break. There are some advantages and disadvantages to that, but that is for a completely another video. But, you can try to use different styles and see what works best for you. Obviously, from my perspective, Pomodoro worked for me because I wanted to use my phone, but I also knew that I had the responsibility to study. So, it might vary depending on the person, but the best thing that you can do is find what suits you and then use it to manage your time well. Now, next to my next point, which is depth over breadth. Basically, whatever you learned in GCSEs, you learned the exact same in A levels at the start, but there's so much more depth to it. So that is my next point. In GCSEs, you had everything spread out, but in A levels, it may be shortened, but the content is a lot more than GCSEs. And I mean a lot more than you expect. I mean, I covered the syllabus of, let's say, one particular topic. Let's say you're doing superposition, which is a topic similar to waves, but a bit different. But the thing is, even when you do study the whole topic, you write your notes or whatever you do, when you come to doing the past papers, you find out new stuff. I think every 1 or 2 past papers, there is a new piece of information that you might have not learned when you were studying the topic. And that is why it is very, very, very important to make sure that you know everything, the syllabus inside and out. Which also leads me to my next point, which is do as many past papers as you can, because when GCSEs, you can get off even if you don't do past papers. I'm not saying don't do past papers, but even if you do maximum 5-6 past papers, you can get a good score. But when it comes to A levels, it becomes almost impossible, because past papers are genuinely your key to success. Without past papers, it becomes almost impossible for you to do anything. And that's why I think it's so important to do at least 6 to 7 years worth of past papers. And different subjects may have, old specification, new specification. Sometimes what A levels exam boards like to do is they like to ask questions from the old specification. So I can give my own example in this. What happened with me in chemistry unit 2, so there's 2 units in edexal chemistry. In unit 2, I basically ended up having to give answers that were related to the old specification, even though it was not mentioned. So what these exam boards sometimes do is they ask out of syllabus questions, and the only way that you might know the answer is if you've done old specification past papers, or if you're just smart in general. So another thing I would really recommend is that you do as many past papers as you can, because honestly, it is your key to success, and there is no other option that you can take. If you don't do past papers in A levels, I think you're genuinely, there is no hope. So do as many past papers as you can. And another thing regarding past papers that you can do is that every time you finish a topic, you can go and do topical past papers, which will help you massively, I think. Especially for physics and chemistry, that all you have to do is, there's a website called ExamMate. I will leave the link in the description below. The topical is paid, but only 5 years. So as in, like, you will get everything below 2018, I think, and then from 2018 to 2024 you'll have to pay. But it's a one-time purchase, and I think it is the best thing that you can do for your studies, because you can, every time you complete a topic, you can just go select a topic, and it will give you the last 15 years of past papers worth of that topic's question. Now, my next point is, do not, be afraid to ask for help. When it comes to A levels, it is important that you discuss with your friends, you discuss with your teachers, and more importantly, when you're doing past papers, you go onto YouTube after you've done the past papers and see an explanation for every single question. And that's what I used to do. So the way I used to do past papers is, at the start, I used to do them myself. I used to attempt as many questions as I can. If I didn't understand, I would leave it, and then I would mark myself out of how much. Let's say the pure maths paper is out of 75. So I would mark myself out of 75, and whatever I got, I would write it in one place. Next, I would go onto YouTube, and then there's this YouTuber called Mr. Hassan's Maths channel. I will leave his channel in the description below. He is like the reason I got an A in my January Pure 1 exam, and I'm probably gonna get one in Pure 2 as well. So you can go and check his channel out, because he is the best resource if you're doing international, or even if you're doing UK GCSEs and A levels. So make sure to check him out. And yeah, so basically what I'd do, I would finish my past papers, and then I would go onto YouTube, and I would, watch his video on that particular past papers, and I would see how he did it and what I could change, and the time duration that he did it in. And most importantly, the questions that I got wrong or I left out completely, I would, understand how to do it. And then I would attempt to redo it without, looking at what he was doing. And if I got it correct, then I would write my new score. And I would do this for every single past paper that was available for Pure Maths 1, Pure Maths 2, or statistics. The thing I'm about to mention happens with most students is that they lose balance of their, work-life balance. And this is something that is very important throughout your A levels, so year 11, year 12, and year 13. It is important to maintain a healthy, life, so that you do not either over stress yourself by studying, or you don't become too lazy by not studying at all. It is important to have the perfect balance. And how do you actually achieve that perfect balance? Well, that is another completely separate video, but I'm going to give a brief explanation to that in this video as well. The best thing that you can do is, make a routine. A routine is what sets you for life. Without a proper routine, you're never going to be able to study properly. You're never even going to be able to do any of your other work properly. So it's very important to that you have your own routine. So for me, I would come back from school, I would eat, and then I would study a bit, and then you can do whatever you want. You can do productive stuff, you can whatever your hobbies are, and then you can study like 1 hour more at night, and then you can go sleep early, so you can make sure you get 7 hours of sleep. On the weekends, you can wake up early, you can get studying done. So for me personally, every time I wake up early in the morning, so let's say 5, 6, 7 a.m., I observe that I can get much more work done than if I wake up at 11 a.m. So if I wake up at 7 a.m. and I work till 12 or 11 or 12 a.m., I can do much more work than if I wake up at 11 a.m. And another advantage of waking up early is that most people wake up at around 9 and 10. So you're getting around 3, 4, 5 extra hours of work, which, you can use to get ahead of everyone. Like literally you can use to get ahead of everyone else. So maintain a balance, go out for a run, go to the gym, go play football, do whatever you want, you do your hobbies. If you're into making YouTube videos, make them, but also maintain, study at the same time, and perform your hobbies at the same time as well. So it's important to have a balance to make sure that you stay healthy and your brain does not overstress itself. I honestly don't know how many tips I'm into, but I'm gonna give one or two more just to make sure. I lost count of it a long time ago. Oh yeah, another thing that I would like to mention is that you need to have critical thinking skills, because when it comes to A levels, the questions are not as simple as you might think. There were times when I was doing a past paper and I would look at the question, I would have no clue how to answer. Especially in chemistry, it is horrible. And then I used to go on YouTube and look at the correct answer, and I would, my mind would be lost, because how can you connect this topic to that topic like that, and then that is the answer. So that is one thing that I personally struggle with a lot, is like connecting stuff to old topic. Another thing that I do not like about A levels is that they ask you questions from GCSEs if they feel like it. So it's up to your exam board. If they feel like it, they might just throw in a question from something you learned back in GCSEs. And honestly, for me, I forgot everything about GCSEs, because I thought I'm going to study everything again in A levels, which is wrong. Which is another thing that you shouldn't be doing, is like completely forgetting everything you learned back in GCSEs. Make sure that you retain some of the information. If you studied actively, then you would retain it. But if you studied passively like I did back then I think you might not remember. Passively basically just means that you crammed it, you just by hearted it one day before the exam, so you didn't actually use flashcards, active recall, making you forget everything that you had probably learned back then. So it's important that you know how to structure your question and how to think critically to answer that question. Maths is still, for me at least, maths is a bit more easier, and physics, if you're taking Cambridge physics, it's a bit more easier. But then when it comes to chemistry, I think whether it's CIE, whether it's Edexcel, some people, I'm more of a maths person, but some people might be a chemistry person. I know a few people who like chemistry more than anything. So for them, chemistry was obviously easy. So it completely depends on like what you prefer, and if you actually like chemistry more, or if you like maths more, if you like physics. If you like maths more, you're going to be more into maths and physics, statistics as well. But if you like chemistry more, you might be into more chemistry, biology, etc., etc. What you like does not matter when it comes to A levels. So for example, I take maths, chemistry, and physics, and for me, I found maths the easiest, then physics, and then chemistry. But it doesn't matter. You have to study all three regardless. So you have to make sure that you study properly. You study equally. You don't like look at chemistry and you're like, it's too hard and I cannot study it, so you go and study maths. You cannot do that. You have to maintain, as I said, a balance. So you study each subject equally throughout the week, month, and the year. So you have to make sure that you complete every single syllabus almost on the same time, and you do not choose one subject over the other. That is a big mistake I made, that I did maths and physics more than chemistry, and at the end my chemistry papers were much more harder. The blame is not all on me, because what Edexcel did this year, it was honestly horrific. There are three papers for chemistry: unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. I did 15 pulses for each of them, and the paper that came in front of me was probably the worst one I've ever seen. So hopefully the thresholds are low, but we move. And another thing that you can do is that when you get your results, you can always retake, which I think is much better. And for Cambridge, you have to retake all three components, or however many components a paper has. But for Edexcel, you can just, like, for example, if I do good in unit 1, unit 2, but unit 3 I didn't do good, I can just take unit 3 again. Whereas for Cambridge, I would have to take all three of them again. So that is something I like about Edexcel and Oxford as well. So yeah, in conclusion, it is quite easy. It is not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. If you use your summer to an advantage, then I think you can get ahead of others, and you can understand A levels much better than you would if you just, the first time you were doing it was in September or August. So I think the best thing for you to do right now is that you go through the syllabus outline and the specification for the subjects you're going to be taking next year in year 12, and make sure you understand what the specification requires of you, and you start studying. At least do 25% of each subject you're taking within the summer, so that when you go to school, you understand what you're doing exactly. And use YouTube to an advantage, because there's so much educational content on YouTube that you can, basically do anything with. You can learn anything. And if you want a separate video on channels that I recommend on YouTube for you to watch, then let me know in the comments if you're watching this. And yeah, so that's all. But it's very easy to get an A star if you stay consistent throughout the whole year. Anyways, that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. Do leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you with another video very, very soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.